guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to discuss an important concept called API handling. API stands for Application Programming Interface. API handling is an important concept and a must known concept for everyone who want to dive into the development process. So today we are going to know how to get data from a database and post a data to the database using the requests module available in Python. So without any further ado, let's see what exactly is this API and what role does this play in this full stack applications and all. So let's say I have a front end over here, a front end and a typical back end. Cool. Back end consists of two things, an API and database. Let's say this is an API and this is a database. So from front end, I will send a request to the back end, that is the API. From front end, I'm gonna send a request to the back end. This is the front end and this is the back end. So through front end, I send a request. Maybe it can be a GET request or a POST request. I will send a GET request or a POST request through front end to the back end, that is to the API. When I hit this API will go into the database and fetch whatever we need and updates whatever we need. So after interacting with this database, the API will return a response to us. And we will display that response on our front end. So this is how this architecture works. Through front end, we send a request to the API and the API handles our request and does operations on database and returns the response. So let's take an example. This is let's say I have a Spotify API. Let's say this is a Spotify API, which will give me some songs if I ask for it. Alright, this is a Spotify API. Cool. I will send a request of get send a request to the route get song, get me a song. So the get song request will be reached to this API and this API will fetch the particular song that we want from this database and returns the particular song to the front end. So we can play it on the app or website, whatever it is. So we have front end and the back end. Back end is consists of two parts, an API and also the database. An API is the thing. You can also call it the programs which handles the interaction between the front end and back end. The main code of backend is called the API. So this is what all about API. Now let's see how to get and post data to a database using an API. So I would urge you to go to this website called JSON placeholder. You can just type it in Google and visit the first website and you will be in the home page. So JSON placeholder provides us some dummy APIs which gives some dummy data in response if we hit a get request to it. So I'm gonna use this to explain how the API handling works. So as of now, open your VS Code and you have to install a library called request in order to handle the APIs to send HTTP requests like get, post, put, patch, etc. So type this command and install the requests module. Pip install requests. Alright, after installing, just import this request module, and now let's create a function called get data, which has some URL, the API URL. So I'm gonna get the API from this JSON placeholder .typecode.com. If you scroll down, as you can see, this is how you can fetch the data from this JSON placeholder.com APIs. The fetch is used in JavaScript. So we're gonna, since do it with Python, we're gonna use the request module. So as you come down, you can see the resources here, right? We have some dummy APIs, the posts API, comments API, albums API, photos API, to-dos users. So these are some dummy APIs that are available in this JSON placeholder.com. So if you go to the posts API, the as you can see, we are in the slash post route. So we have sent a request to the slash post route, and the API returned as an array of objects or dictionaries in Python, which contains the data that we need. Each data contains a ID, and this user ID, title and body, depending on the schema that we are writing in the database, an ID is must. So these are the posts, and as you can see, these are the comments, some dummy comments, and then the albums, the photos. So let's try and see this photo here. Yeah, it's a dummy photo. So this gives us some photos, and this API gives some to-do list, and this API gives us information about some users like the name, username, email address, state. When we do login in particular website, an object will be created to store our credentials. So for this tutorial, we are gonna use this post API and get and send request to the database. As you can see here, all the HTTP methods are supported. These are some HTTP methods. The get method, which is used to get a particular data from the database, and the post method is used to send the data to the database, and the put and paste is used to update some particular thing in a database, and delete is used to delete something. So I'm going to use this post method, the post API, copy this URL. If I send a get request to this particular URL, it will return me the JSON object, the JavaScript object notation data, and I will display it in Python. So come here, I'll paste the URL over here in the format of strings. So this is my API, and I will send a get request to this API using the request module. Request dot get of URL. So this particular thing will return me a response, will give me a response, and I'll store the response in a variable called res. So now I have to print the data that the response has given. So basically, whenever the response comes from a API or the database, its default form is it is in string. So in order to convert it into a JSON format, we have to use response.json method. It's not JSON method. Response.json method. Now the response whatever we got here in the form of string is converted into a JSON format or a dictionary format in Python and stored it in the data. So now the data is in the variable data. Let's print this. This will give us these all posts if we hit a get API. So save the file and let's execute this and see if we got the data actually. Python API handling.py. The data didn't print because we didn't call the function. So calling the function is must. Now save the file and execute this again. Yeah, as you can see, we have been written with the data. The data of 10 posts. A single post contains the user ID, title, and the body of it, and the next user of ID2. And similarly, we got the users data using the request.get method. So this is how you get a data from a particular API. Request.get and the URL of that API. And you need to convert into JSON from the string format for easy readability and all. So this is how the get method works, and let's see how to post a particular data to the database. This is the get method, and now let's see the post method. So what do we need to post here? A data of a post. We need to post a post which contains user ID, title, and the body. The title of the post we are posting and the body of the post we are posting and the user ID. The ID will be appended automatically, so we don't need to send it explicitly to the database. So I'm going to make a function called post data, which will send some data to the API or the backend. So I'm gonna make some dummy data in the format of JSON or dictionary. So what are we gonna send? We're gonna send the user ID, title, and the body. ID will be appended automatically, so we don't need to send it explicitly. So user ID, let's say that's 123, and the title of the post, hello world, and the body of it, or the description you may say, hello world, blah blah blah. Done. So I have made a dummy post, and now I'm gonna send a post request to this particular URL. So let's copy this and paste it here. I'm gonna change it to the post method from the get method, since we are gonna post the data. So the data we are gonna post is data. Sending a post request to this particular URL with the data of post, that is this, with the user ID, title, and body. So we are gonna get a response. It may be a status code like the request has been successfully acknowledged or something like that, or we can also get the object that we are sending in return. So let's try to print this. Before printing this, let's convert it to JSON. let's do this at a time. Let print response.json. So now call this particular thing function, save the file and execute it. Cool. We have got the response of the object that we just sent, that is the user ID 123 and the title hello world and the body of it, and the ID is 101. As you can see in this dummy APIs, the ID of the last user is 100. Since we sent a new post, the ID has been incremented to 101. So it's the proof that the post has been successfully sent to the backend. So this is how you can use the get and post methods available in this request module in order to handle these HTTP requests and handle APIs efficiently. So this is it for today, guys. This is how you can handle APIs, and I would recommend you to try try the same thing with other APIs available in this jsonplaceholder.com. Try with the comments, albums, photos, everything. So I guess that's it for today. Let's meet in another video. If you like this video, like, share and subscribe the video. Thank you.